Screen Profits is back to exclusively cover blockbuster movies from the last 10 years. Let's get started on the box office analysis, movie budgets, and the final numbers that determine profitability. Welcome to Screen Profits, your definitive source for the financial analysis of modern blockbuster films. Before we begin our movie breakdown, for everyone asking where to watch Oppenheimer, the 2023 Best Picture winner, the film is currently available for streaming exclusively on Peacock in the United States. For those without that service or in other regions, you can also rent or purchase this cinematic masterpiece on all major digital platforms like Apple TV, Amazon Prime Video, and YouTube. And for the ultimate viewing experience as intended by the director, many IMAX theaters still feature special return engagements. Now that you know where to watch this essential piece of modern cinema, let's dive into the analysis. On July 21, 2023, the world of cinema was redefined by a cultural explosion unlike any other, Barbenheimer. And at the epicenter of that blast was Christopher Nolan's 3-hour, R-rated historical epic, Oppenheimer. This wasn't just one of the latest movies. It was a monumental artistic and commercial gamble that became one of the most talked about and top-rated movies of the decade. The film, based on the Pulitzer Prize-winning biography American Prometheus, stars the brilliant Cillian Murphy in a career-defining performance as the lead actor, J. Robert Oppenheimer. For movie lovers everywhere, the release was an event, a testament to the power of big-screen, adult-oriented drama in an era dominated by superheroes and sequels. It immediately became a must-watch movie for anyone serious about film. The plot summary of Oppenheimer is as complex and ambitious as the man himself. Christopher Nolan employs his signature nonlinear storytelling style to weave together two distinct timelines, a choice that is central to a full movie-explained analysis of the film. The main narrative, shot in stunning color on large-format IMAX film, follows Oppenheimer's perspective. It traces his journey from a brilliant but troubled theoretical physics student in Europe to his appointment as the director of the Manhattan Project, the top-secret American initiative to build the atomic bomb during World War II. We see him assemble a team of the world's greatest scientific minds in a remote desert town of Los Alamos, New Mexico, racing against the Nazis to create a weapon of unprecedented power. This storyline is a thrilling race against time, culminating in one of the most iconic movie scenes in recent memory, the breathtakingly tense and terrifying Trinity test. Intercut with this primary story is a second timeline, presented in stark, specially developed black and white IMAX film. This section represents what Nolan calls an objective viewpoint, focusing on the 1959 Senate confirmation hearing of Lewis Strauss, a former chairman of the Atomic Energy Commission, played by an almost unrecognizable Robert Downey Jr. Through testimony at this hearing, we flash back to a 1954 security hearing designed to strip Oppenheimer of his security clearance and publicly humiliate him. This political thriller narrative reveals the bitter rivalries, betrayals, and political machinations that sought to destroy Oppenheimer's reputation after the war, painting a portrait of a man haunted by his creation and targeted by those who envied his influence. The film's genre is therefore a masterful blend. It's a historical biopic, a high-stakes political thriller, and a deeply intimate and tragic character study, making it one of the most unique blockbuster movies ever made. The official trailer hinted at this epic scope and intense personal drama, immediately drawing comparisons to other prestigious historical hit movies like Schindler's List and The Imitation Game, as well as Nolan's own large-scale epics like Dunkirk. For any movie fan, it was clear Oppenheimer was destined to be a cinematic landmark, a truly rewatchable movie that reveals new layers upon every viewing. But behind this dense, dialogue-driven historical epic lies one of the most fascinating financial stories in modern Hollywood, a story of risk, loyalty, and a legendary filmmaker's power. A full box office breakdown and production budget analysis of Oppenheimer must begin with the drama behind the scenes. The film represents Christopher Nolan's seismic split from his longtime studio home, Warner Bros., following a disagreement over their streaming strategy. This led to a Hollywood-wide bidding war, with Universal Pictures ultimately winning the rights to his next project. They didn't just get a movie. They made a monumental bet on a single auteur. The film was greenlit with a reported production budget of $100 million. While a massive figure, this is incredibly lean for a Nolan blockbuster exactly half the cost of his previous film, Tenet. For a 3-hour, R-rated historical drama, however, it was a staggering 9-figure bet, a level of financial risk that most studios would never take on such challenging material. The financing structure here is the key to the entire story. This wasn't a co-production. It was a full-throated, 100% studio-financed bet by Universal. To lure Nolan, they offered him what is arguably one of the most generous filmmaker deals in modern history. Think of this less like a standard movie deal and more like a top venture capital firm giving a proven founder a blank check and complete autonomy. Nolan reportedly received a deal that included total creative control, a massive P&A budget commitment of another $100 million, an unprecedented 100-day exclusive theatrical window, and most crucially, around 20% of the film's first dollar gross. This last point is a game changer. First dollar gross is a rare and powerful form of compensation. It's like being a rock star who gets a cut of every single concert ticket sold, not just a share of the profits after the arena, roadies, and all other expenses are paid. This essentially gave Nolan a massive personal equity stake valuation in the film's total revenue. With this high-risk deal in place, the pre-release global gross forecast was a source of intense industry debate. Most analysts were conservative, predicting that a 3-hour, dialogue-heavy, R-rated biopic would struggle to find a mass audience. Projections were in the $300 million to maybe $400 million range worldwide. At that level, the film would have been only marginally profitable for Universal, and the gamble would have been seen as a qualified success at best. But then, Barbenheimer happened. The cultural moment turned Oppenheimer into a can't-miss event, and the film's box office performance exploded, ultimately grossing a jaw-dropping $976 million worldwide. This phenomenal result didn't just make the project a success. It turned it into a financial supernova. The initial ROI, return on investment, forecast was obliterated, and every single one of the film's monetization streams from the domestic and international box office to its eventual high-value streaming and home video rights was supercharged. This radically transformed Nolan's personal equity stake valuation into a potential payday, exceeding $100 million, and made Universal's high-risk bet on prestige drama one of the most profitable and strategically brilliant studio investments of the decade. That historic box office performance was propelled by a force as powerful as any nuclear reaction: sheer, unadulterated star power. A Christopher Nolan film is always an event, but the cast he assembled for Oppenheimer is, without exaggeration, one of the most staggering ensembles in modern cinematic history. This wasn't just a cast. It was a who's who of Hollywood talent, a fact that became a central pillar of the film's marketing and a source of endless discussion for movie lovers. At the very heart of this vast ensemble is Cillian Murphy, delivering a once-in-a-generation performance as J. Robert Oppenheimer. The casting news that Murphy would lead a Nolan film was met with universal approval from movie fans, as it represented the culmination of a 20-year working relationship. Murphy has been a staple of Nolan's films since 2005's Batman Begins, always delivering memorable supporting performances. A look at his actor filmography with Nolan, from the terrifying Scarecrow to the conflicted heir in Inception, shows an actor of immense range, but he was always just shy of the lead role. For Oppenheimer, Nolan finally put him at the center, and the result is a performance that is nothing short of breathtaking. For a full character explained breakdown, Murphy's Oppenheimer is the ultimate, tormented genius archetype. He is portrayed as a man of dizzying intellect and crippling insecurity, a charismatic leader and a womanizing narcissist, a patriot and, ultimately, a man haunted by the world-changing horror he unleashed. A fascinating piece of behind-the-scenes movie trivia is Murphy's intense physical transformation for the role, losing a significant amount of weight to achieve Oppenheimer's gaunt silhouette and subsisting on, as he said, an almond a day. This physical commitment, combined with his piercing blue eyes that dominate the film's IMAX close-ups, creates an unforgettable portrayal that rightly earned him the Academy Award for Best Actor, cementing Oppenheimer as one of the best movies of cast members' careers. Playing opposite Murphy in a truly transformative role is Robert Downey Jr. as Louis Strauss, the film's stealth antagonist. This performance became the fan-favorite performance for many, and a complete movie breakdown must focus on its brilliance. For a generation that knows him almost exclusively as the witty, charismatic Tony Stark, his portrayal of the bitter, calculating Strauss was a revelation. In a Character Explained segment, Strauss is the embodiment of petty jealousy and political ambition. A self-made man who resents Oppenheimer's privileged background and intellectual arrogance, he becomes the architect of Oppenheimer's public downfall. Downey Jr. disappears into the role, adopting a new voice, a receding hairline, and a rigid posture. The performance is a masterclass in subtlety. Every quiet glance and carefully chosen word drips with a veiled animosity that builds throughout the film. It was a stunning reminder of the immense talent Downey Jr. possesses, a fact evident in his pre-MCU actor filmography with top-rated movies like Chaplin and Zodiac. His Oscar win for Best Supporting Actor was not just a reward for this performance, but a celebration of his triumphant return to dramatic acting. The ensemble is anchored by two more Hollywood heavyweights, Emily Blunt and Matt Damon. Emily Blunt plays Catherine Kitty Oppenheimer, a complex and challenging role. Far from a simple supportive wife archetype, Kitty is a brilliant biologist in her own right, trapped by circumstance, alcoholism, and her husband's ambition. Blunt portrays her with a fiery, brittle energy, making her one of the few characters who is completely unafraid of Oppenheimer. Her testimony during his security hearing is a highlight of the film, a blistering defense of her husband and a takedown of his accusers. Matt Damon provides a very different, but equally crucial, energy as Lieutenant General Leslie Groves. Groves is the pragmatic, no-nonsense military man tasked with overseeing the Manhattan Project. He is loud, demanding, and unimpressed by the theoretical physicists he commands. Damon brings a grounded, almost comedic warmth to the role, and his odd couple-like partnership with Murphy's Oppenheimer forms one of the central dynamics of the film. Their relationship, built on a grudging mutual respect, provides much of the narrative momentum. Beyond these core four, the sheer depth of the cast is astounding, a piece of movie trivia in itself. The film is a parade of recognizable faces, many of whom appear for only a few minutes. Florence Pugh delivers a raw and vulnerable performance as Jean Tatlock, Oppenheimer's troubled communist lover. Rami Malek has a single, pivotal scene at the end that changes the entire context of the black and white storyline. The cast also includes Josh Hartnett, Casey Affleck, Kenneth Branagh, and Gary Oldman in a one-scene cameo as President Truman. The fact that so many A-list actors signed on for such small roles is a testament to the power and prestige of working with Christopher Nolan, turning Oppenheimer into a one-of-a-kind cinematic event and an instant, timeless movie. So, how do you assemble a cast that includes at least 5 Oscar winners and countless nominees for a film with a lean, $100 million production budget? From a financial perspective, the numbers simply don't add up. Unless you employ one of the most powerful tools in Hollywood dealmaking, back-end participation, an investor analyzing the cost allocation for Oppenheimer would be baffled. An A-list star like Matt Damon or Emily Blunt can typically command an upfront salary of $10 million to $20 million per film. Robert Downey Jr. Quote, post-MCU is even higher. If even a few of these stars demanded their standard fee, the actor salaries alone could have consumed the entire production budget. The secret, widely reported in the industry, is that to work with a director like Nolan on a prestigious project like this, many of these stars took massive upfront pay cuts. Reportedly, stars like Matt Damon, Emily Blunt, and Robert Downey Jr. each agreed to a drastically reduced upfront salary of around $4 million. Why would they do this? They traded guaranteed cash for a slice of the profits. This is the essence of back-end participation. It's like being a senior executive at a startup and agreeing to a lower salary in exchange for valuable stock options. If the startup the movie is a modest success, you do okay. But if it becomes a massive hit, your stock options could be worth exponentially more than the salary you sacrificed. These types of sophisticated compensation packages are a brilliant strategy to manage upfront costs. By reducing the fixed salaries, Nolan and Universal dramatically lowered the film's break-even point and mitigated financial risk. This approach has a profound impact on star power ROI. For a relatively small upfront investment of $4 million per star, the studio got the immense marketing value and on-screen talent of some of the biggest names in the business. The very presence of this all-star cast signaled to audiences that Oppenheimer was a major cinematic event, a factor that undoubtedly contributed to the Barbenheimer phenomenon. The star power ROI here is off the charts. Furthermore, this deal structure cleverly aligns the interests of the actors with the studio. With back-end participation, the actors are financially incentivized to promote the film as heavily as possible. Every talk show appearance and every red carpet interview directly contributes to a bigger box office, which in turn inflates their own final payday. It transforms them from hired talent into business partners. Cillian Murphy's reported upfront salary was a higher, but still modest for a lead of this magnitude, $10 million. However, his deal most certainly included significant back-end participation, ensuring that he was rewarded handsomely for carrying the weight of the entire film. When Oppenheimer exploded at the box office, these back-end deals became a financial windfall for everyone involved. The actors made far more than their standard quotes, and the studio reaped the rewards of a de-risked, star-studded blockbuster. It was a masterclass in financial engineering that allowed for maximum creative ambition with minimal upfront financial exposure. That incredible ensemble cast, secured through shrewd financial deal-making, was only one part of the equation. To turn a 3-hour historical drama into a billion-dollar cultural event, Universal Pictures had to mount a marketing campaign as ambitious and audacious as the film itself. The official trailer for Oppenheimer, 2023, dropping with teaser release moments that sparked massive fan buzz, set the stage for a premiere event rivaling any competitor's press tour excitement, while the social media campaign built theatrical release hype across the globe. The marketing for Oppenheimer was a masterclass in selling not just a movie, but an unmissable, large-format experience. The campaign began with a series of cryptic and brilliant teaser release moments. The very first movie trailer was less of a trailer and more of a ticking clock, literally. A live countdown appeared on social media and as a pre-roll ad on YouTube, ticking down to the film's release date, a full year away. The visuals were abstract flashes of fire and smoke, overlaid with Cillian Murphy's haunting narration. This immediately established the film's ominous tone and created immense trailer hype by treating the film's release not as a date on a calendar, but as an impending, world-changing event. The fan reactions were immediate, with viewers trying to piece together the meaning of the cryptic visuals and the ticking clock sound design. This was a sophisticated marketing choice, targeting cinephiles and building a sense of dread and importance from the very beginning. As the theatrical release approached, the full trailers provided a clearer picture, yet still maintained an air of mystery. Universal's marketing team made a crucial decision. They never showed the money shot. The Trinity test explosion, the film's practical effects centerpiece, was heavily implied but never revealed in any movie trailer. Instead, the marketing focused on the faces of the all-star cast, the intensity in Cillian Murphy's eyes, and the sheer scale of the IMAX cinematography. The trailers sold the human drama and the moral weight of the story, not just the spectacle. This was a key part of the full movie explained strategy, convincing audiences that this was a serious, important film that demanded to be seen and debated. This approach stood in stark contrast to typical blockbuster marketing, which often reveals a film's biggest moments in the trailer. For Oppenheimer, the marketing promised a mystery and a profound experience, and the only way to get the full story was to buy a ticket. Of course, no box office breakdown of Oppenheimer is complete without discussing the single greatest marketing gift any film could ask for: Barbenheimer. This was a purely organic, fan-driven social media campaign that Universal did not create but wisely embraced. The stark contrast between the vibrant, cheerful marketing for Greta Gerwig's Barbie and the dark, serious campaign for Oppenheimer, both set for the same release date, created a perfect storm of internet memes. What began as a joke about counter-programming quickly evolved into a genuine cultural movement, with audiences making plans to see both films as a double feature. This user-generated content, from fan-made posters to viral TikToks, created a level of release excitement that a studio simply cannot buy. It transformed the worldwide release of two separate films into a single, unmissable cultural event. The campaign was bolstered by a more traditional, but no less effective, global press tour and a star-studded Paris premiere event. However, even this was marked by drama, as the cast famously walked out of the London premiere in solidarity with the beginning of the SAG-AFTRA strike, an event that itself generated massive news coverage and added to the film's sense of importance. Finally, a huge part of the marketing was Christopher Nolan himself, acting as the ultimate evangelist for the theatrical experience. His focus on shooting in IMAX 17 film and using practical effects became a core marketing pillar, creating a powerful sense of urgency for audiences to see the film on the biggest screen possible. This strategy was designed to maximize the initial box office run before the film's eventual streaming debut, framing the theatrical release as the definitive and essential viewing experience. The culmination of this multi-pronged campaign, part studio strategy, part cultural accident, is what turned a challenging R-rated drama into a nearly billion-dollar phenomenon. This phenomenal marketing success, however, was fueled by an equally phenomenal investment. Behind the cultural buzz and organic memes was a colossal financial commitment from Universal Pictures, a figure represented by the film's P&A budget. The prints and advertising spend for Oppenheimer was reportedly a staggering $100 million, a figure equal to the entire production cost. Committing to a $100 million P&A budget for a 3-hour, R-rated historical drama is almost unheard of. It was a massive bet that a film this challenging could be marketed like a 4-quadrant summer blockbuster. This 9-figure sum was used to fund a global campaign, with the majority going towards media buying costs. This includes purchasing expensive TV spots during major broadcast events, a relentless digital ad campaign across social media, and placing the trailer in front of every major theatrical release for months. To understand the profitability of this spend, we have to look at the revenue side. As we've discussed, a studio doesn't keep the entire box office gross. The theatrical revenue split means that, on average, the studio shares about 50% of ticket sales with theater owners. For Oppenheimer's incredible $976 million worldwide gross, this means Universal's share, after the split, is approximately $488 million. Furthermore, studios charge distribution fees, typically an 8–10% fee on the gross, for the service of bringing the film to market. While this is an internal number, it's a cost that eats into the final net profit. This is where we can calculate the all-important marketing spend ROI. Was the massive $100 million P&A budget a worthwhile investment? The answer is a resounding, historic yes. The goal of this spend was to elevate the film beyond a niche, art house release and into the mainstream cultural conversation. It succeeded beyond anyone's wildest dreams. Key stat: with an estimated $100 million P&A budget, generating a studio theatrical share of roughly $488 million, Oppenheimer's campaign delivered a stunning theatrical ROI of nearly 400%, or 4x its initial marketing investment, from theatrical revenue alone. This means for every dollar Universal spent on advertising, they generated nearly $4 in profit back from the box office run. This is a phenomenal return for any film, but for a prestige drama, it's almost unprecedented. For context, many successful dramas hope to achieve a marketing spend ROI of 2x. Oppenheimer doubled that. And this calculation doesn't even account for the immense, immeasurable value of the Barbenheimer phenomenon, which represented tens, if not hundreds, of millions of dollars in free, organic advertising. This synergy made Universal's already massive P&A budget exponentially more effective, resulting in one of the most successful and profitable marketing campaigns for a non-franchise film in the 21st century. That phenomenal marketing campaign didn't exist in a bubble. Its success was amplified by its unique position in the cinematic landscape. To fully grasp the magnitude of what Oppenheimer accomplished, we need to compare with other films, both its direct competitors and its spiritual predecessors. Fans of the social network's genre-defining, rapid-fire dialogue and Dunkirk's heart-pounding, non-linear tension will find Oppenheimer bridges both worlds, delivering blockbuster storytelling moments that rival any prestige drama now streaming on Netflix, HBO Max, or Disney+. The most immediate and obvious point of box office competition was, of course, Greta Gerwig's Barbie. The Barbenheimer phenomenon was a once-in-a-decade cultural event, but on paper, these two films were direct genre rivals for audience attention and dollars on their shared opening weekend. A box office breakdown shows that Barbie ultimately won the head-to-head battle, grossing a staggering $144 billion worldwide. However, the story here isn't one of victory or defeat, but of symbiosis. The cultural conversation surrounding the double feature lifted both films to heights neither could have achieved alone. The friendly rivalry created a must-see event status for both movies, driving audiences who might have otherwise skipped a 3-hour historical drama to the theater. A deeper movie breakdown reveals that the target audiences were so different that they weren't truly cannibalizing each other. Instead, they were expanding the total market, proving that two wildly different, high-quality films can thrive simultaneously. Beyond its direct release date competitor, we can find many similar movies in Christopher Nolan's own filmography. The clearest comparison is his 2017 masterpiece, Dunkirk. Both are historical epics set during World War II. Both employ a complex, nonlinear timeline, and both prioritize visceral, immersive filmmaking over traditional character exposition. A detailed full-movie explained analysis shows how both films use Ludwig Göransson's propulsive, ticking clock scores to create an almost unbearable sense of tension. Where Dunkirk used its 3 timelines land, sea, and air to compress time, Oppenheimer uses its 2 timelines the rise and fall to expand it, showing the full, tragic arc of a man's life. Dunkirk grossed an impressive $527 million worldwide on a similar $100 million budget, which at the time was seen as a massive success for a war film. This provided a clear benchmark for what a non-franchise Nolan historical epic could achieve, a benchmark that Oppenheimer would ultimately shatter. Looking at the top films in genre for historical biopics, another crucial comparison is 2014's The Imitation Game. Like Oppenheimer, it tells the story of a brilliant but troubled historical figure, Alan Turing, who played a pivotal role in World War II and was later persecuted by the very government he served. Both films explore themes of genius, secrecy, and the personal cost of world-changing work. Both are anchored by a powerful central performance: Benedict Cumberbatch as Turing and Cillian Murphy as Oppenheimer, and both were major awards contenders. However, The Imitation Game was a much more traditional and modestly budgeted film, costing around $14 million and grossing a very successful $233 million worldwide. Oppenheimer takes the great man biopic and injects it with the scale, scope, and formal experimentation of a Nolan blockbuster, elevating the genre to an entirely new level. It's the difference between a finely crafted chamber piece and a grand, world-spanning opera, and its box office performance reflects that massive leap in ambition. These films, along with other fan favorites like A Beautiful Mind and The Theory of Everything, helped establish a market for stories about troubled geniuses, but none of them prepared the industry for the commercial behemoth that Oppenheimer would become. From a purely financial perspective, an investor's analysis of Oppenheimer before its release would have been dominated by 2 key metrics: market share projection and saturation risk assessment. The market share projection is a cold, hard look at the potential audience for a film of this type. The historical drama genre, while prestigious, is not typically a box office juggernaut. The genre ROI average for a prestige biopic is often quite modest. A film like The Imitation Game delivered an incredible 16x ROI, but that was on a tiny budget. For a $100 million film, the path to profitability is matchability. Universalspur release market share projection would have looked at comparative revenue off past Nolan films like Dunkirk, $100 million film, the path to profitability is matchability. Universalspur release market share projection would have looked at comparative revenue off past Nolan films like Dunkirk, 527M, and other successful R-rated dramas like Joker, $1. 7B, which was an outlier due to its IP connection. A realistic projection would have placed Oppenheimer's ceiling somewhere between those 2 figures, likely hoping to capture a significant portion of the adult male demographic and cinephile market. The primary threat to achieving this projection was the saturation risk assessment. This analysis looks at the competitive landscape. Releasing in late July, Oppenheimer was positioned in the heart of the competitive summer blockbuster season. It went up against Barbie, a film with 4-quadrant appeal, and was released just 1 week after Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, a direct competitor for the adult and IMAX audience. On paper, the saturation risk assessment was extremely high. Key stat: in a crowded Q3 market, a film like Oppenheimer could have been projected to lose 20–30% of its potential opening weekend gross due to the immense competition from Barbie and Mission Impossible. The market seemed dangerously overcrowded for a film that required so much audience focus. But this is where the Barbenheimer phenomenon flipped the entire financial model on its head. The organic social media buzz didn't just mitigate the saturation risk assessment, it eliminated it and created a market expansion event. The budget versus performance analysis for both Barbie and Oppenheimer is unlike anything we've seen. Instead of splitting a finite market, they grew the market. People who might have seen one movie that weekend saw two. The cultural event created a new market share projection in real time, one where the combined box office, pie, was significantly larger than any analyst had predicted. This is a crucial lesson in modern film financing. In a world of endless streaming content, a true cultural event can defy all traditional ROI benchmarks. The lesson of Oppenheimer is that a high saturation risk assessment can be overcome if the film is not just marketed as a product, but becomes part of a genuine cultural conversation, turning fierce competition into an unprecedented and wildly profitable partnership. That unprecedented box office success was built on the bedrock of a dense, challenging, and masterfully constructed narrative. To fully understand why Oppenheimer captivated audiences and critics alike, we need to do a complete Oppenheimer 2023 plot summary and story breakdown, examining how Christopher Nolan's screenplay and audacious visual language work in tandem. This is a film where the structure is the story, a formal choice that is central to any full movie explained analysis. The film opens with two intercutting quotes, one about Prometheus stealing fire from the gods, and the other from Oppenheimer himself, declaring that he has become death, the destroyer of worlds. This immediately establishes the core movie themes of hubris, consequence, and myth-making. From here, our story breakdown splits into its two distinct, color-coded timelines, which Nolan labels fission and fusion. The fission timeline, shot in vibrant color, represents Oppenheimer's subjective experience. It's a chaotic, propulsive journey through his memories. We see him as a brilliant but deeply unstable student at Cambridge, so consumed by jealousy that he attempts to poison his tutors, an act he thankfully reverses. This early scene is crucial, as it establishes his capacity for destructive acts driven by ego. He then moves to Germany to study the burgeoning field of quantum mechanics, where he's haunted by visions of stars and waves, a brilliant use of visual effects to represent the inner workings of his mind. These abstract, beautiful, yet terrifying images of a hidden reality are a recurring visual motif, representing the awesome power he is beginning to comprehend. The cinematography by Hoyt van Hoytema in these sequences is intimate and intense, using extreme close-ups on Cillian Murphy's face to trap us within his psychological state. The fusion timeline, shot in stark, objective black and white, focuses on Louis Strauss's 1959 Senate confirmation hearing. A detailed screenplay analysis of these scenes reveals them to be the film's structural spine. Through the testimony of various witnesses, we are propelled back into Oppenheimer's past, but now viewed through a political and often hostile lens. This timeline functions as a courtroom drama, methodically building a case against Oppenheimer, revealing his pre-war communist sympathies, his numerous extramarital affairs, most notably with the volatile Jean Tatlock, Florence Pugh, and his arrogant dismissal of his political rivals. The choice to shoot this in black and white gives it the feel of an archival document, a cold, hard record of history, contrasting sharply with the vibrant, emotional subjectivity of Oppenheimer's colored timeline. Our Oppenheimer 2023 plot summary truly ignites when these two timelines converge on the Manhattan Project. As World War II rages, the brilliant Oppenheimer is recruited by the gruff, no-nonsense General Leslie Groves, Matt Damon, to lead the American effort to build an atomic bomb. Despite his questionable past, Groves sees in Oppenheimer the ambition and ruthless focus needed to get the job done. This leads them to establish a top-secret laboratory in the middle of nowhere, Los Alamos, New Mexico. The filming locations here are authentic. Nolan shot on the actual historical sites, adding a layer of verisimilitude to the production. The film transforms into a high-stakes race against time. Oppenheimer assembles a team of the world's most brilliant scientists, a new kind of industrial revolution, he calls it, and sets them to work on solving the seemingly impossible theoretical and engineering challenges of creating a nuclear weapon. This section of the film is a masterclass in montage, showing the rapid construction of a town from scratch and the intense, collaborative, an often argumentative process of scientific discovery. As the project progresses, the central movie themes of power and responsibility come into sharp focus. In one of the most memorable scenes, the scientists debate the terrifying possibility that detonating the bomb could ignite the atmosphere and destroy the entire world. The probability is near zero, they conclude, but not zero. They decide to proceed anyway. This single decision encapsulates the terrifying hubris at the heart of the project. A behind-the-scenes look at the script would show this is a pivotal moment in our narrative breakdown. It's the point of no return, where theoretical science becomes a horrifying practical gamble. This all leads to the film's magnificent centerpiece, one of the most iconic scenes in all of cinema, the Trinity Test. This sequence is the ultimate payoff of Nolan's commitment to practical effects. For this iconic scene's explained moment, Nolan and his team famously recreated a nuclear explosion without the use of any CGI, using a complex mixture of explosives and camera tricks to achieve the effect. The build-up is almost unbearably tense. The score drops away, and we are left with only the sound of wind, rain, and the anxious breathing of the scientists. The countdown is agonizing. When the bomb finally detonates, Nolan makes a radical choice. There is no sound. We see the brilliant, terrifying, silent flash of light, the mushroom cloud billowing into the sky in all its awful majesty. The characters are blinded by the light, their faces a mixture of awe and terror. Only after a long, deafening silence does the sound wave hit, a physical, bone-rattling roar that shakes the theater. In this moment, Oppenheimer quotes the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." It's a stunning, unforgettable sequence that perfectly captures the profound, world-altering horror of what they have unleashed. A full CGI breakdown of this scene is impossible because there is none, a fact that became a cornerstone of the film's marketing and a testament to its audacious filmmaking. The final act of this movie breakdown deals with the aftermath. The bombs are dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The war ends. Oppenheimer becomes the most famous man in the world, a hero celebrated on the cover of Time magazine, but he is a haunted man. In another masterful use of visual effects, we see him giving a celebratory speech to the people of Los Alamos, but his mind fractures. He imagines the floor buckling, a blinding white light, and the cheering faces around him turning to charred, screaming visages. This is where the two timelines fully collide. His post-war advocacy for international control of nuclear weapons and his opposition to the development of the even more powerful hydrogen bomb make him a political target. The fusion timeline reveals that Louis Strauss, consumed by a petty grudge, has orchestrated the 1954 security hearing to destroy him. The hearing is a brutal, humiliating ordeal where Oppenheimer's past associations and personal failings are used to paint him as a security risk. The film leaves us with the tragic irony of a man who gave his country the ultimate weapon, only to be cast out and silenced by that same country. The narrative sets up a final, crucial question to be answered in the film's final moments. What was the true nature of Strauss's betrayal, and what did Oppenheimer's final conversation with Albert Einstein truly mean for the future of the world? From an investor's perspective, a screenplay as dense, long, and challenging as Oppenheimer represents a monumental financial gamble. Every creative choice, from the nonlinear structure to the commitment to practical effects, carries a significant weight on the project's overall risk-return ratio. The first line item in this analysis is the script development cost. For a project of this magnitude, based on a Pulitzer Prize-winning book, the costs are substantial. First, there's the cost of the adaptation rights for the book American Prometheus, which for a high-profile property could easily run into the high six or low seven figures. Then, there's the cost of the screenwriter himself. While Nolan served as his own writer, a director of his stature commands a massive writing fee, likely in the range of $5 million to $10 million, all of which is factored into the initial budget. This significant upfront investment is made to secure a high-quality blueprint, which is essential for a film this complex. The much larger and more significant factor, however, is the creative risk. On paper, the creative risk for Oppenheimer was astronomical. The film is 3 hours long, R-rated, filled with complex scientific and political dialogue, and features a morally ambiguous protagonist. It has no franchise potential, no action scenes in the traditional sense, and deals with deeply serious, often depressing subject matter. For a studio, this is a checklist of red flags. A film like this has a very narrow and unpredictable path to profitability. The decision to invest $100 million in production and another $100 million in marketing for such a film represents a risk-return ratio that most studios would deem unacceptable. The risk of a massive financial loss was incredibly high, while the potential return was seen as limited to the prestige film audience. Where the risk-return ratio becomes more complex and interesting is in the film's visual execution. While Oppenheimer is not a traditional VFX-heavy blockbuster, it still carried a significant VFX budget for its unique visual needs. Nolan's desire to visualize quantum mechanics and stellar phenomena, as well as the climactic Trinity test, required a specialized approach. While the film famously contains 0 CGI shots, this doesn't mean it lacks visual effects. It relied heavily on practical effects, complex in-camera techniques, and specialized chemical reactions filmed by VFX supervisors Andrew Jackson and Scott Fisher. While it's difficult to estimate, the budget for these practical visual effects, including the extensive R&D, likely consumed a significant portion of the production budget, perhaps in the 20 million range. This is an example of prioritizing ROI versus visual complexity in a unique way. Nolan bet that the marketing narrative of real effects would generate a higher return in audience interest and ticket sales than simply creating the explosion with CGI for a fraction of the cost. The incredible production efficiency of his team was key here. They delivered a visually stunning and marketable sequence for a cost that, while high for a practical effect, was still far less than the VFX budget of a typical superhero film. Ultimately, Universal's bet was not on the commercial viability of the story itself, but on the belief that Christopher Nolan's name and his commitment to an audacious, practical filmmaking style could turn a high-risk creative endeavor into a commercially viable event. It was a bet on the filmmaker as a brand, a strategy that improved the risk-return ratio from near impossible to merely terrifying. That audacious filmmaking, which balanced immense creative risk with a belief in the audience, left viewers with a story that lingered long after the credits rolled. Before we dissect the film's powerful final moments, it's essential to address some of the most frequently searched questions that arose from the film's dense and complex narrative. This is where we go deeper into our movie breakdown to clarify key points and explore popular fan theories. A major question that dominated fan discussions was, why was Lewis Strauss so obsessed with destroying Oppenheimer? This is central to any full movie explained analysis. The film masterfully builds the case over its 3-hour runtime, revealing that Strauss's vendetta isn't based on a single transgression, but a death by 1,000 cuts of perceived slights and humiliations. The first key incident occurs in 1947, when Oppenheimer, during a public hearing about exporting radioisotopes, embarrasses Strauss by making a mockery of his concerns, comparing them to the importance of a can of beer. The audience, filled with scientists, laughs at Strauss, a man desperate for their respect. The second and more crucial incident revolves around a conversation Oppenheimer has with Albert Einstein by a pond. Strauss sees them talking, and when he later approaches Einstein, Einstein gives him a cold, dismissive look and walks away. For years, the insecure and paranoid Strauss believes Oppenheimer said something to turn the world's most respected scientist against him. This single, misunderstood moment festers in his mind, fueling his rage and his determination to ruin the man he believes has made him a fool. These moments, which may seem small, are magnified by Strauss's deep-seated insecurity and jealousy of Oppenheimer's intellect and public adoration. Another highly searched query is, what was the meaning of the poisoned apple scene at the beginning of the movie? This scene, which occurs early in the Fission timeline, is a crucial piece of character setup that contains minor Oppenheimer 2023 spoilers for his entire arc. While studying at Cambridge under Professor Patrick Blackett, a young, homesick, and deeply unstable Oppenheimer is shown injecting a chemical implied to be cyanide into an apple on his tutor's desk. The film then shows him having a change of heart, racing back to the lab and throwing the apple in the trash just before his hero, the Danish physicist Niels Bohr, almost takes a bite. Within a complete movie breakdown, this scene serves two purposes. First, it's a nearly direct adaptation of a real, though disputed, incident from Oppenheimer's life, grounding the film in the often shocking details of its source material. Second, and more importantly, it's a powerful metaphor for his entire life's work. The apple represents forbidden knowledge, just like the atomic bomb. In a moment of ego-driven rage, he creates a tool of potential destruction. He is then horrified by the potential consequences and tries to contain it, but the knowledge, once released, can never be truly taken back. It's a perfect encapsulation of his later journey with the bomb. Creation, regret, and a desperate, failed attempt to control the consequences. Finally, many viewers were left asking, why did Oppenheimer keep his security clearance hearing secret? This is a key plot point that fuels many fan theories about his motivations. Throughout the 1954 security hearing, which takes place in a small, cramped office, Oppenheimer is repeatedly advised by his lawyers that he doesn't have to participate. Since it's not a legal trial, he could simply walk away and retain his prestigious position at the Institute for Advanced Study. Yet, he chooses to stay and fight, enduring days of brutal character assassination. The film suggests his reasoning is deeply tied to his ego and a naive belief in the system. He tells his wife, Kitty, "They need to hear the truth. I have to be able to take the stand." He believes that if he can just explain his actions and motivations, his intellectual brilliance and patriotism will win out. He cannot fathom that the proceeding is a rigged game, a show trial designed from the outset to humiliate him. This choice highlights the tragic flaw in his character, his arrogance. He believes he is the smartest man in any room and can outthink his opponents, failing to realize he is playing a political game, not a scientific one, and the rules are entirely different. But what if these historical details and complex character motivations aren't just for cinematic drama? From a financial perspective, they are a deliberate and powerful tool for driving a very specific kind of value. Every Reddit thread debating Strauss's motives, every video essay on the symbolism of the apple, and every deep discussion about Oppenheimer's tragic flaw is a form of free marketing that boosts fan engagement. For a film this dense, this sustained conversation is critical. It transforms a one-time viewing into an ongoing intellectual puzzle, encouraging rewatches and keeping the film at the forefront of the cultural zeitgeist. This deliberate narrative complexity isn't just a hallmark of Christopher Nolan's style. It's a brilliant financial strategy to maximize the film's long-term IP lifecycle value by ensuring we never stop talking about it, debating it, and trying to unlock its secrets. That intricate and deeply personal narrative, which left audiences grappling with profound moral questions, culminates in one of the most powerful and haunting endings in modern cinema. This is the section that brings everything together, the definitive Oppenheimer 2023 ending explained. If you have not yet seen this masterpiece, this is your final warning. This entire chapter will be filled with major Oppenheimer 2023 spoilers, as we will be dissecting the film's final scenes frame by frame, exploring the shocking twist ending, and analyzing what it all means for the world we inherited. Our Oppenheimer 2023 ending explained analysis begins not with Oppenheimer himself, but with the resolution of the black and white fusion timeline, Louis Strauss's 1959 Senate confirmation hearing. Throughout the film, Strauss has been portrayed as a man of great influence, confidently navigating the political landscape to secure his cabinet position. He believes he has successfully buried Oppenheimer, his great rival, years earlier. The final act of his hearing hinges on the testimony of a relatively minor character we've seen briefly at Los Alamos. A young scientist named Dr. David Hill, played in a crucial cameo by Rami Malek. Hill takes the stand, and in a quiet, methodical, and absolutely devastating monologue, he exposes the entire conspiracy. He testifies that the scientific community is universally aware that the 1954 security hearing against Oppenheimer was a sham, a personal vendetta orchestrated by one man. Louis Strauss. Hill lays bare Strauss's petty jealousy, his vindictiveness, and his paranoia, painting him as a man who has repeatedly and grievously misled the committee. This testimony is the film's first and most shocking twist ending. The narrative rug is pulled out from under Strauss. The camera focuses on his stunned, crumbling face as he realizes that his own ambition has led to his public humiliation, precisely the fate he had engineered for Oppenheimer. A young Senate aide, who would later be revealed to be John F. Kennedy, delivers the final blow, informing Strauss that the vote will not go his way. His political career is over, destroyed by the very ghost he tried to exorcise. With Strauss's downfall complete, the film cuts back to its fission timeline for the final and most important sequence. This is the true heart of the Oppenheimer 2023 ending explained. We return to a conversation between Oppenheimer and Albert Einstein by a pond at the Institute for Advanced Study, a conversation that has been teased throughout the entire film. This is the moment that Lewis Strauss has obsessed over for years, the moment he believed Oppenheimer turned Einstein against him. We now finally learn what was actually said. Oppenheimer reminds Einstein of a conversation they once had, where they discussed the terrifying possibility that the Trinity test could start a chain reaction that would destroy the world. Oppenheimer tells Einstein, "I believe we did." This is the film's second, and far more profound, twist ending. The chain reaction wasn't the physical destruction of the atmosphere, it was a political and historical chain reaction. The creation of the atomic bomb didn't end war. It started a nuclear arms race, a cascade of proliferation that would put the entire world under the perpetual threat of annihilation. As Oppenheimer says this, Nolan's masterful direction takes over. The sound drops away, replaced by the ominous rumble of the score. A single raindrop hits the pond, then another, creating ripples that spread outwards, a perfect visual metaphor for the chain reaction. The camera pushes in on Cillian Murphy's face, his eyes filled with a terrifying, world-weary understanding. The visuals then begin to fracture. We cut from the ripples in the pond to visions of nuclear missiles rising from their silos, of warheads streaking across the sky, of a planet engulfed in the very fires he first saw only in his mind. The film ends on this extreme close-up of Oppenheimer, a man who won the war but lost the future, forced to live in the world he had irrevocably broken. He is the modern Prometheus, who stole fire from the gods, was celebrated as a hero, and is now bound to a rock for eternity, tormented not by an eagle, but by his own creation. It is a chilling, devastating, and unforgettable conclusion. Now, we must address the keywords that dominate blockbuster analysis: post-credit scene, sequels, and universe expansion. For Oppenheimer, the most powerful creative choice is what isn't there. There is absolutely no post-credit scene. The film ends abruptly on that haunting close-up, leaving the audience in stunned silence. This is a deliberate and crucial artistic decision. A post-credit scene is a tool of commercial filmmaking, designed to tease sequels and generate hype for the next installment. To include one here would be a grotesque betrayal of the film's devastatingly serious theme. The finality of the ending is the point. This leads us to the very idea of sequels or a universe expansion, concepts that are antithetical to what Oppenheimer is. There are no credible rumored plotlines for an Oppenheimer 2 because the story is finished. The film is a self-contained, biographical tragedy. However, this is where a more sophisticated analysis of these keywords comes into play, leading to some of the most potent Oppenheimer 2023 fan theories. The most prominent of these theories is that the sequel to Oppenheimer is not a film. It is the last 70 years of human history. The universe expansion is the real-world proliferation of nuclear weapons to multiple countries, the Cold War, the Cuban Missile Crisis, and the precarious state of global security we live with today. The film's ending doesn't tease a fictional sequel. It points a finger directly at the audience and says, "You are living in the sequel." This is the ultimate, terrifying legacy of Oppenheimer's work. Other Oppenheimer 2023 fan theories focus on the precise nature of Oppenheimer's final expression. Is it one of regret for his actions, or is it one of pure terror at the chain reaction he can no longer control? The brilliance of Cillian Murphy's performance and Nolan's direction is that it's both. It's the face of a man who understands that his personal tragedy is now the world's tragedy. This is the devastating final piece of the Oppenheimer 2023 ending explained. There are no more Oppenheimer 2023 spoilers to be found because the rest of the story is our own. From a financial perspective, an ending this definitive, bleak, and devoid of commercial hooks presents a unique and fascinating case study. The first metric we must address is the sequel potential score. For Oppenheimer, on a scale of high, medium, or low, the score is an unequivocal 0. The film is a closed loop, a complete and self-contained artistic statement. There is no narrative opening for sequels, no commercial logic for a universe expansion, and any attempt to create one would be an act of creative vandalism that would tarnish the original's legacy. But here's the crucial insight. This is not a financial weakness. It is the source of the film's immense long-term value. This is where we must analyze the creative risk of the ending. Nolan's decision to end on such a haunting, downbeat note, without any sense of hope or commercial compromise, was a massive risk. A more conventional film might have ended with Oppenheimer's 1963 Enrico Fermi award ceremony, a moment of public rehabilitation that would have provided a more uplifting conclusion. By choosing to end with the terrifying vision of nuclear apocalypse, Nolan prioritized artistic integrity over audience comfort. The risk-return ratio of a sequel is, therefore, infinite. The financial risk of damaging the original's prestige with a cynical follow-up would far outweigh any potential box office return. The ending's power lies in its finality. So, where does the long-term franchise IP worth, or in this case, the prestige IP worth come from? It comes from the film's transformation from a commercial product into a permanent cultural and historical artifact. The ending is the engine of this transformation. By delivering such a powerful, critically acclaimed conclusion, the film cemented its place in the cinematic canon. This dramatically increases its IP lifecycle value in a way a franchise-baiting ending never could. The primary vehicle for content monetization for Oppenheimer is not sequels, but its long-tail value as a modern classic. This allows Universal to command prestige pricing for its long-term streaming and broadcast rights. Educational institutions, film schools, and history departments will be licensing and studying this film for decades. It becomes a blue-chip asset in the studio's library, a film that will continue to generate revenue through on-demand sales and rentals long after a more disposable blockbuster has been forgotten. The Academy Award for Best Picture is the ultimate ROI multiplier in this equation. That award doesn't just boost short-term sales, it permanently elevates the film's status, and by extension, its IP valuation. Key stat: analysts project that a Best Picture win can increase a film's long-term licensing and library value by an estimated 25–40% over its lifetime. This prestige acts as a powerful halo effect for the entire Universal brand, reinforcing its image as a home for high-quality, ambitious filmmaking. In the end, the financial genius of Oppenheimer's ending lies in its complete rejection of modern franchise building. It proves that there is still immense long-term value in creating a singular, perfect, and finite piece of art. The lack of a plan for content monetization through sequels is the monetization strategy, securing its place as a timeless masterpiece whose franchise IP worth will be measured not in opening weekends, but in decades. That powerful, definitive ending cemented Oppenheimer's place as a cultural artifact, but its impact didn't stop at the theater doors. It sparked a unique and fascinating form of fan engagement, one that was less about traditional official merchandise and more about intellectual and aesthetic appreciation. A 3-hour drama about quantum physics and political hearings doesn't exactly scream action figures and lunchboxes. Yet the film's immense pop culture impact created its own distinctive ecosystem of fan activity and movie collectibles. The Barbenheimer phenomenon was the primary engine of this engagement. It sparked a massive wave of creative fan art that dominated social media for months. Artists created brilliant mashup posters, animations, and illustrations that blended the bubblegum pink aesthetic of Barbie with the fiery, apocalyptic imagery of Oppenheimer. This user-generated content was a viral marketing campaign in itself, creating a level of merchandise hype for something that didn't even exist. The demand for Barbenheimer t-shirts, featuring split images of Margot Robbie and Cillian Murphy, was so immense that countless unofficial online stores popped up to meet it, a true testament to its grassroots appeal. While there were no official action figures, the official merchandise that did exist was targeted at a more sophisticated audience. Beautifully designed movie posters, especially the minimalist IMAX versions, became highly sought-after movie collectibles. High-end apparel brands released themed apparel, not with character faces, but with subtle logos from the film, like the Trinity Project insignia. The most popular item was, without a doubt, the fedora hat, with fans wanting to replicate Oppenheimer's iconic silhouette. A detailed movie breakdown of the film's aesthetic shows how its distinct visual identity, the sharp suits, the ever-present hat, the constant cigarette created a form of real-world cosplay for fashion-forward cinephiles. There were no TikTok challenges asking fans to dance, but there were countless video essays and deep-dive analyses, a more intellectual form of fan engagement that suited the film's serious tone. This was a behind-the-scenes look at how a prestige film can generate just as much fan passion as a superhero blockbuster, just in a very different form. From a financial analyst's perspective, the merchandise ROI for a film like Oppenheimer is a fascinating and unconventional case study. The revenue here is not generated through mass-market branded toy revenue or extensive retail partnerships with big-box stores. Instead, it operates on a more niche high-margin model. The primary driver of revenue is the licensed product royalty. Universal would have entered into a limited number of licensing agreements with high-end apparel and collectibles companies. While the volume is low, the price point per item is high. Think less about selling millions of $10 toys and more about selling thousands of $50 t-shirts or $200 collectible posters. For a film like this, the projected sales in traditional merchandise are modest, likely in the low tens of millions globally. The real financial story, however, is the powerful fan-driven ROI. The Barbenheimer phenomenon was a marketing force multiplier. It created a massive, organic demand for merchandise that the studio didn't have to spend a single marketing dollar to generate. Every fan-made Barbenheimer t-shirt design, while not officially licensed, acted as a walking billboard for both films, contributing to the cultural conversation and driving ticket sales. The unofficial merchandise boom demonstrated a powerful proof of concept for the official licensors, showing them exactly what kind of designs and concepts audiences were hungry for. This drastically reduces market risk for the official licensees and increases the value of the licensing rights. The licensed product royalty collected from official Barbenheimer crossover merch, though likely a complex legal negotiation between Mattel and Universal, represents a found money opportunity created entirely by the audience. This demonstrates a perfect, if accidental, fan-driven ROI, where the passion of the audience creates a new and unexpected revenue stream, proving that even the most serious drama can have a profitable life outside the box office. That unconventional and surprisingly potent fan engagement added another layer to the film's cultural footprint. But where Oppenheimer truly solidified its legacy and long-term value was in a more traditional, and arguably more powerful, arena. The world of critical and industry recognition. From Oscars nominations for its outstanding performances to Golden Globe wins that sparked massive awards buzz. Oppenheimer, 2023's critical acclaim rivals any competitor's film festival highlights, earning a stellar Rotten Tomatoes score and glowing audience ratings across all streaming platforms. This wasn't just a hit, it was a consensus masterpiece, a rare event where critics, audiences, and industry voters all came to the same, unified conclusion. The moment the first wave of critic reviews began to land, it was clear that Oppenheimer 2023 was something special. The film achieved a staggering 93% certified fresh rating on its Rotten Tomatoes score from hundreds of professional critics, a number almost unheard of for a film of such density and challenging subject matter. The praise was nearly universal. Critics lauded Christopher Nolan's masterful and confident direction, calling it the culmination of his career-long obsessions with time, structure, and immersive, large-format filmmaking. A detailed movie breakdown from top publications celebrated the screenplay's intricate, Swiss watch-like construction, which managed to make 3 hours of quantum physics and political hearings feel as tense and propulsive as a thriller. The performances were singled out for universal acclaim, with reviewers hailing Cillian Murphy's portrayal of Oppenheimer as a monumental, career-defining achievement, and Robert Downey Jr.'s transformation into Louis Strauss as a stunning return to dramatic form. The film was instantly declared one of the top-rated movies of the year and a must-watch film for anyone serious about the art of cinema. What made this critical reception so powerful, however, was that it was perfectly matched by the audience scores. In a refreshing departure from the often divisive blockbusters of the modern era, viewers embraced the film with the same enthusiasm as the critics. The Rotten Tomatoes score from verified audiences stands at a remarkable 91%, with an A cinema score. This indicates that the film didn't just impress reviewers. It deeply resonated with the general public who paid to see it. The very things that could have been perceived as alienating, its length, its complex structure, its morally ambiguous characters, were instead embraced as signs of quality and ambition. The high audience ratings proved that there is still a massive global audience for challenging, adult-oriented drama, a fact that sent a powerful message to the entire industry. This groundswell of unified critical and commercial success created a perfect storm of awards buzz that began in July and never once subsided. While Oppenheimer, 2023, didn't follow the traditional route of competing at festivals like Cannes or Venice, its premiere was treated with the gravity of a major film festival highlight. From that moment on, it was the undisputed frontrunner for the entire awards season. The Golden Globe wins were the first major confirmation of its dominance, with the film taking home 5 of the night's biggest prizes, including Best Motion Picture Drama, Best Director for Nolan, Best Actor for Murphy, and a hugely celebrated Best Supporting Actor win for Robert Downey Jr. This set the stage for the ultimate coronation at the Academy Awards. The film received a staggering 13 Oscars nominations, the most of any film that year. On Oscar night, it was a near-total sweep. Oppenheimer 2023 took home 7 statues, including the industry's highest honors. Best Picture, Best Director for Christopher Nolan, his first-ever win in the category, Best Actor for Cillian Murphy, and Best Supporting Actor for Robert Downey Jr. These were not just trophies. They were the industry's official acknowledgement of the film as a landmark cinematic achievement, celebrating its many award-winning performances and cementing its place in film history. From an investor's perspective, however, those golden statues aren't just for show, they are the final and most powerful financial multipliers in a film's life cycle. But they don't come free. The journey to a Best Picture win is paved with a significant financial investment known as the award campaign cost. For a major frontrunner like Oppenheimer, Universal would have mounted a sophisticated and expensive For Your Consideration campaign, estimated to cost anywhere from $15 to $20 million. This budget covers everything from trade advertising and special screenings to publicist fees and talent travel. It's a high-stakes marketing campaign aimed at a very small, very specific audience, the thousands of Academy voters. So what is the return on that multi-million-dollar investment? It's immense, and it comes in 2 forms. First, there's the direct post-award revenue boost. Key stat: historically, a Best Picture Oscar win can add an estimated $30.50 million in post-win domestic box office and significantly increases a film's long-term licensing value by 25–40%. The title Best Picture winner gives the film a new lease on life, driving a theatrical re-release and boosting on-demand rentals and streaming views. This award is a direct and powerful ROI multiplier on the initial investment. But the more significant financial impact is the critical acclaim multiplier. The Oscar win permanently elevates the film's status, allowing the studio to command prestige pricing in all future streaming monetization deals. It's no longer just another movie in a streaming library. It's a Best Picture winner, a permanent mark of quality that makes it a more valuable asset for decades to come, massively increasing its overall lifetime value, LTV. That Oscar night coronation was the final seal on a film that had already achieved a far more unpredictable and powerful form of victory: total cultural dominance. From meme references of its most iconic scene to viral fan clips that sparked massive social media reactions. Oppenheimer 2023's cultural impact rivals any competitor's pop culture influence, creating fan engagement that lives on through TikTok clips and Reddit theories. The film didn't just earn rave reviews. It became a language unto itself, inspiring a wave of fan-driven content that was as intelligent and creative as the film itself. The biggest engine of this cultural impact was, of course, the Barbenheimer phenomenon. This was one of the biggest viral moments in recent internet history. It was a purely organic movement, born from the stark contrast between the 2 films. The internet was flooded with memes and fan-made trailers that brilliantly blended Oppenheimer's apocalyptic dread with Barbie's vibrant joy. This created a level of pop culture influence that no studio marketing department could ever hope to manufacture. The trend moved offline, with audiences dressing up in Barbenheimer outfits half pink, half black to attend their double features. This was more than just a passing internet trend. It was a genuine cultural event that celebrated the diversity and power of cinema. Beyond the Barbenheimer of it all, Oppenheimer 2023 generated its own unique viral moments. The line, "I believe we did," became an instant fan quote, used in countless meme references to signify a moment of horrifying realization. The film's dense historical detail also turned it into a treasure trove for online sleuths. This led to a boom in Easter eggs, explained videos, and long Reddit theories, dissecting the film's historical accuracy and hidden meanings. One of the most talked about fun facts was a brief shot showing an American flag with 50 stars during a 1945 scene, a small historical inaccuracy that sparked intense, if good-natured, debate. A look behind the scenes at the fan reactions shows an audience that was not just passively watching, but actively engaging with the film on an intellectual level, a rare feat for any modern blockbuster. From a financial analyst's perspective, this explosion of cultural buzz translates directly into tangible value. The key concept here is engagement-driven revenue. The Barbenheimer phenomenon alone represented a massive, unpaid media campaign that generated an almost incalculable viral marketing ROI. This high level of organic engagement also leads to a significant CPM uplift from engagement, as ad space around trending content becomes more valuable. Key stat: the Barbenheimer trend generated billions of unpaid media impressions, which can be valued at well over $100 million in equivalent advertising spend, drastically increasing the film's brand awareness at zero cost. This cultural dominance also massively boosts the film's brand partnership value. While Oppenheimer itself is not a fit for typical brand deals, its status as one half of a cultural event made it an attractive, if ironic, partner, further increasing its trending monetization potential. That seismic cultural impact, crowned by a historic Oscar win, is what defines the lasting legacy of Christopher Nolan's masterpiece. But in a Hollywood obsessed with shared universes and endless sequels, what is the future of Oppenheimer? As Oppenheimer 2023 cements its film legacy, its franchise potential is of a very different kind than any competitor's universe expansion. While fans won't be speculating on traditional sequels or spin-off ideas asterisk, the director's next projects and upcoming movies will be scrutinized through the lens of this film's monumental success. The legacy of Oppenheimer 2023 isn't about what comes next in its story, but about the profound cinematic impact it has had on the industry itself. Let's be unequivocally clear in this final movie breakdown. The franchise potential for a direct sequel to Oppenheimer is zero. As our ending explained analysis detailed, the film is a self-contained biographical tragedy. The story is complete. There are no rumored plotlines for an Oppenheimer 2 because narratively, it makes no sense. The film's power is in its finality. To tack on a sequel would be to fundamentally misunderstand and disrespect the artistic statement Nolan made. There is no franchise roadmap for J. Robert Oppenheimer's character. However, this doesn't mean the film lacks a future. The most compelling spin-off ideas discussed by fans are not narrative, but thematic. The true sequel to Oppenheimer could be another Nolan-helmed historical epic that tackles a different world-changing event or figure with the same level of intellectual rigor and cinematic scale. The immense fan anticipation is now not for more Oppenheimer, but for what the creative team does next. The director's next projects will be analyzed to see if he continues this trend of ambitious, adult-oriented blockbusters. Could we see a film about the space race? The rise of Silicon Valley? These are the theoretical upcoming movies that fans are now hoping for. The legacy of Oppenheimer is not a universe expansion in the Marvel sense, but an expansion of what a blockbuster can be. Its film legacy is its powerful genre influence, proving that a 3-hour, R-rated, dialogue-heavy drama can not only compete with but dominate the global box office. It's a cinematic milestone that has reset expectations for what is commercially possible. From a final investor's perspective, this is where we conduct our closing cumulative yield analysis. The lack of a franchise doesn't diminish the film's value. It concentrates it. The nearly $1 billion box office was the explosive event, but the film's long-term financial story is about the powerful fallout, measured in prestige and enduring library value. The film's staggering success is the ultimate ROI multiplier on the studio's initial investment and, more importantly, on Christopher Nolan's own brand. The long-term franchise ROI, or in this case, the standalone masterpiece ROI, is calculated differently. Instead of sequels, the financial drivers are legacy revenue streams. The film's 13 Oscar nominations and 7 wins, including Best Picture, act as the single most powerful ROI multiplier imaginable for a film of this kind. This permanently elevates its status. The IP lifecycle value of Oppenheimer is not in its potential for future stories, but in its permanent status as a must-own, modern classic. This allows Universal to command premium pricing for streaming, broadcast, and educational licensing for decades. Key stat: a Best Picture win can increase a film's long-term library value by an estimated 25–40%, ensuring it remains a profitable asset for decades after its theatrical run. While the sequel investment risk is a non-starter, the success of Oppenheimer, 2023, dramatically lowers the risk for Nolan's next project. His now cemented status as an Oscar-winning director who can deliver a billion-dollar hit from an R-rated drama gives him unprecedented leverage. His next multi-picture deal ROI will be astronomical, as he has proven he is arguably the most commercially reliable auteur filmmaker on the planet. In the final cumulative yield analysis, Oppenheimer, 2023, is a unicorn. It achieved franchise-level returns without any franchise mechanics. The combined investment of roughly $200 million, production plus P&A, yielding a nearly billion-dollar return, is a phenomenal 4–5x initial ROI from theatrical alone. When we factor in the long-term, high-margin licensing fees supercharged by its Oscar wins, the total cumulative revenue forecast for this single intellectual property could approach $1.5 billion over its lifetime. It's a testament to the fact that in a risk-averse industry, a bold bet on a singular vision can still be the most profitable strategy of all. Oppenheimer was not the start of a new franchise. It was a powerful, definitive, and wildly profitable statement.
If you enjoyed this financial dissection, be sure to subscribe to Screen Profits. We are your definitive source for the most in-depth box office analysis and financial reports on modern hits. What last 10-year movie should we break down next? Let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you for the next financial report.